She sat alone at a blind date, but what happened next with a billionaire will haunt you forever. The dimly lit restaurant buzzed with the sound of clinking glasses and muffled conversations, but in the corner, a solitary figure stood out. Mia, her heart racing and palms sweaty, sat nervously at a table set for two, the flickering candlelight casting unsettling shadows on her face. The waiter had just left, and she glanced at her watch 10 minutes late, but who was counting? A chill crept up her spine. She wasn't one to believe in omens, yet something felt oddly wrong tonight. Then, as if the air had thickened, a hush descended upon the restaurant. All heads turned towards the entrance, where a figure cloaked in a dark designer coat appeared. His presence was magnetic, commanding. The rich smell of custom cologne floated through the air like a warning. Everyone whispered, eyes wide, as he made his way to Mia. Rumors had swirled about him: billionaire, philanthropist, and reclusive. But the intrigue didn't end there. They said his last date mysteriously vanished. Just as she barely processed the chilling stories around him, he flashed a smile that both soothed and terrified her. "Sorry for the wait," he said, but his voice dripped with something unplaceable, a mix of charm and danger. He slid into the chair opposite her, and Mia couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement rippling through her like a live wire. She fought the urge to bolt. The air was thick with tension, heightened by the unspoken history surrounding him. Just then, as they exchanged pleasantries, her heart sank. She could see a flash of movement behind him, two shadowy figures standing by the entrance, daggers of intent in their eyes. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Mia's breath caught in her throat as she returned her gaze to the billionaire. He had noticed the figures too. The tension escalated, his expression changed, morphing from charming to something calculating. Were they here for him? As the waiter approached with their drinks, the sound of breaking glass suddenly shattered the tension. Mia jumped, heart racing, as she saw the corner of the room erupt into chaos. Was this just a fluke or the start of something much darker? The billionaire's dark eyes locked onto hers, a silent question hanging in the air. Would she run? Would she stay? In that moment, her fate hung by a thread, and she felt the weight of the world crashing down. What would happen next? Something inside her screamed for answers, but could she handle the truth? The chaos that erupted around them blurred into a whirlwind of pleading screams and clattering chairs. Mia's heart pounded against her ribcage as she instinctively shrank back, seeking cover behind the table. The billionaire, however, remained eerily composed. He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward, eyes darting towards the exit, gauging their threats. "What do you see?" she whispered, barely able to keep her voice steady. "It's not them I'm worried about," he replied, each word heavy with a kind of ominous calm. He pressed his lips together, his expression a mask of determination as he turned his attention to the growing chaos. Waiters rushed around, trying to restore order, but panic ruled the room now. Flashing lights from outside filtered through the window, intensifying the atmosphere. Mia's gaze was pulled back to the figures at the entrance. They were moving. One was slipping through the crowd with unnatural speed, eyes fixed on the billionaire like a predator. The other lingered, blocking the exit. As if sensing her dread, the billionaire reached across the table, gripping Mia's wrist. "Trust me," he urged, the warmth of his hand contrasting the cold dread gnawing at her gut. A strong, calming presence in the storm of fear. "Trust you. You're the one who has brought me into this mess." Before she could withdraw, he pulled her up from her seat. "Now is not the time for that," he snapped, the urgency in his voice erasing her doubts. Mia stumbled forward, caught between disbelief and the adrenaline racing through her veins. As they moved toward the back of the restaurant, the screams escalated. A loud crash came from the other side of the room, and a couple fell from their chairs, eyes wide with terror. Mia's heart sank. They were just like her, a bystander in this nightmare. "Stay close to me." The billionaire's voice brought her back, urgency cutting through the fear. They surged through the crowded restaurant, the figure that had initially been moving through the chaos now sprinting towards them. The billionaire turned sharply, his face fierce, and in one swift movement, pulled out something from his coat, a glint of metal catching Mia's eye. She gasped, her breath caught in her throat. Was this a weapon? Is that necessary? She stammered, part of her rooted to the spot despite the chaos swelling around her. He opened his mouth to respond, but it was too late. The shadowy figure lunged forward, a heightening threat looming almost right above her. Panic surged through Mia as she realized she had to act. She couldn't just wait to be saved. The fear of being helpless burned through her. She had to find a way to break free. Without thinking, she grabbed the nearest heavy object, a wine bottle that had somehow survived the chaos, and raised it defensively, ready to strike. "Get down!" the billionaire roared as the other figure closed in fast. Time slowed. Every detail sharpened. Mia could almost hear the wild tempo of her heartbeat blending into the sounds of the restaurant-turned battlefield. What was she doing? Did she even want to be part of this fight? Just then, the figure's eyes met hers, a twisted grin spreading across its face. What came next would change everything. Would their escape turn into a deadly showdown, or was this the moment that unveiled hidden truths about her date and why she was caught in this nightmare? Mia gripped the bottle tighter, uncertainty coursing through her as she felt the weight of a decision crashing down upon her. What did it mean to trust him? Could she trust herself? The confrontation was about to begin, and all she could do was brace for impact. Mia's heart raced, thundering in her chest as she locked eyes with the shadowy figure. The predator's grin widened, revealing something almost deranged. It was a glance that promised pain, a threat painted against the backdrop of fear and chaos. Adrenaline coursed through her veins as she screamed, "Get back!" Even she was surprised by the force behind her voice, but it was enough to distract the figure momentarily. The billionaire moved into action, positioning himself between her and the threat. The glint of metal in his hand caught the light again, and this time, Mia saw it clearly. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a knife. Heart pounding, she wondered if he'd used it before. Was he a killer, or merely a man thrust into a violent world? Before she could weigh her options, the figure lunged. Without another thought, Mia swung the wine bottle at the intruder, her instincts guiding her. She didn't see the connection, all she felt was the jolt in her wrist as the glass shattered, scattering a spray of crimson and shards across the floor. The figure recoiled, snarling. "You little now!" the billionaire shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her toward the rear exit. They darted past tables that had turned into makeshift barricades, moving faster than Mia thought possible. They navigated through the chaos, frantic eyes darting toward them, fear mirrored in everyone's faces. The screams intensified, a chorus of terror echoing behind them, a reminder of the maelstrom they were trying to escape. Just as they neared the exit, the second figure, the one who had blocked their path earlier, stepped in front of them. He was imposing, face shrouded in shadows, yet the malicious intent radiated from him like heat. A smirk twisted across his lips. "Thought you could get away, huh?" Mia felt the heat from the chaos begin to sizzle out, and panic washed over her again. She could either freeze or fight, and freezing wasn't an option. "Stand back!" she yelled, brandishing the broken wine bottle like a soldier against a dragon. There was a moment of silence, the world around them seemed to freeze. The billionaire stepped up beside her, weapon raised. "You have no idea what you're getting into," he warned. Confidence infused his voice, even as the tension thickened the air. Suddenly, the first figure reappeared, crashing through the table remnants with a wild fury, more furious than before, body brimming with rage. Mia's breath hitched in her throat. They were trapped 2 against 2. Mia, listen, the billionaire stated, urgency seeping through his tone. We need to fight back together. No matter what happens, do exactly as I say. Time froze again. Trust hung in the air like a delicate thread that could snap at any moment. Could she really rely on him? The man she barely knew had dragged her into this hell. And yet. What's the plan? She said, her voice steadier than she felt. He caught her gaze, fierce determination spiraling in his blue eyes. We'll create a distraction. I'll push them back, and you find the exit. Just trust me. Panic gripped her again, but buried beneath it was a flicker of defiance. She might have stepped into this nightmare unprepared, but she was going to let fear take her down without a fight. Okay, she whispered, gripping the broken bottle tighter. On three? On three, he confirmed, eyes narrowing at the advancing threat. 1. Mia's heart roared in unison with the chaos around them. 2. Each second stretched as anticipation shot through her. 3. In that instant, the billionaire lunged forward, engaging the two figures head-on, while Mia dashed toward the dimly lit kitchen, thoughts racing. She couldn't hesitate, the truth of the moment was dawning on her. There was a world beyond this chaos, but could she reach it? As she entered the kitchen, a heavy clang echoed behind her, followed by muffled shouts. A dizzying wave of fear screamed for her to turn back. But the tension in her gut whispered there was more to uncover. She had crossed paths with danger, and she was about to find out just how deep that danger ran. With a racing heart, Mia pushed forward, ready to confront the unknown. What awaited her on the other side of those kitchen doors? Did she trust her instinct enough to follow through? Mia's breath hitched as she rushed deeper into the kitchen, the echoes of chaos fading behind her. The air was thick with the acrid smell of grease and something sweeter, almost sickly. She squinted against the dim light, shadows sprawled across stainless steel surfaces, her mind racing through the rapid succession of moments that led her here. She darted past a row of refrigerators, feeling the chill seep into her skin. Each clattering sound behind her made her pulse quicken. Was the chaos following her? Would she be trapped again by those menacing figures? A rush of fear propelled her feet, and she ducked behind a tall stack of crates, hoping to gain a moment of clarity. Her hand tightened around the broken bottle, its jagged edge biting into her palm. She could hear muffled voices filtering through the kitchen's walls, punctuated by her racing heart. Then she heard it, a low growl, a voice dripping with menace. Where did they go? It was one of the figures. They wouldn't give up easily. She had to move. But where? A flicker of movement caught her eye. An exit sign glowed dimly in the far corner, bathed in an eerie light. Could it lead her to safety? The billionaire had said to trust him, but would there be time? Would he still be fighting? Mia's instincts shouted at her to go, to leave. Every second here felt like a countdown to disaster. She took a deep breath, steeling herself, and made her way toward the exit, careful not to make a sound. The oppressive silence felt like a weight pushing down on her. As she tiptoed closer to the door, a loud crash erupted from the front of the kitchen. A pan flew through the air, clattering across the tile. Mia startled, her heart slamming against her ribs. She turned to see the doorway engulfed in a burst of energy as the figures stormed in, searching like hungry wolves. They were getting closer. Mia! A voice called out from behind her. It was the billionaire. Relief flooded her system, swelling against the panic that had taken root in her chest. Get back! He shouted as he barreled through the door, sweat glistening on his brow and fury painted across his features. Her heart soared then plummeted. What now? Mia! He was moving fast, glancing back at the looming figures trying to corner them. This way! He waved at her as he ducked beside her, lifting an industrial steel tray from a nearby counter. Are you crazy? She hissed, casting a quick glance at the ominous shadows creeping closer. We have to get out of here, I know. But we need to distract them first. With a sudden burst of decisiveness, he flung the tray toward the figures, creating a stunning clang that echoed loud against the stark chill of the kitchen. The plan worked. They turned, shocked, eyes darting toward the noise like moths to a flame. "Now go!" he barked, his voice a booming command. Mia surged past him, her feet flying toward the exit with determination. Just as she reached the door, she glanced back one last time. The billionaire was still there, fighting, thrusting the tray like a shield between himself and the attackers. She froze, doubt flooding her veins. "What are you doing? Come on. I'll buy you time," he roared, pushing her out the door. "Just go." The door slammed shut behind her, cutting off the chaos. She was outside now, tasting the sweet air that felt almost like freedom. But with it came uncertainty. She could run, but was he safe? The thought of leaving him behind clawed at her conscience, twisting her stomach in knots. Her heart felt heavy, caught in a tug-of-war between fear and resolve. Could she trust him enough to believe he would survive this? She took one shaky step forward, then another, glancing back at the door. Would this all be for nothing? Silence enveloped her as she stood at the fork in the path, one side leading to safety, the other to the unknown chaos she had just fled. Mia took a deep breath, trembling. What if she wasn't ready for whatever awaited her out there? What if the worst was still to come? As Mia ventured deeper into the darkness of the alley, the question loomed large in her mind: how? Long before the nightmare followed her into this new world. Mia's feet pounded against the cracked pavement, each step driven by an instinctual need to escape. The alley felt claustrophobic, dark bricks towering over her, groaning under the weight of her fear. Every shadow cast by the flickering streetlight seemed to move, to pulse with life, taunting her retreat. Her heart raced, a drum of dread echoing in her ears. She turned a corner, gasping for air, the smell of damp concrete and city refuse filling her nostrils. Her mind buzzed with chaotic thoughts. Did he make it out? Could she really leave him? What if? The sounds of the kitchen chaos reverberated in her memory: clangs, crashes, and shouts. But they were gone now, replaced by the haunting silence of this alley. She stumbled to a halt, the adrenaline slowly giving way to a heavy realization. This street looked like a maze, the kind that spiraled endlessly, keeping secrets behind every turn. "Mia," she heard a whisper, chilling her spine and drawing her gaze up towards the faint light ahead. Ignoring it, she pushed onward, stumbling into an open space that was somehow even darker. Her hands trembled around the shards of glass, a poor excuse for protection, the jagged edges scarring her palm. Was I wrong to trust him? She muttered, her voice small in the oppressive night. Just as she took a calming breath, she felt a cold chill creeping up her back. A presence. Did you really think you could escape that easily? The voice echoed from behind her, deep and dripping with malice. Mia spun around, her breath hitching again. Shadows whispered from the darkness, 3 figures emerging like phantoms. They closed in around her, faces distorted with sinister grins and eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. "Found you," the tallest one said, his voice smooth like oil. Mia's instincts screamed at her to run, her heart racing as she searched for an exit. But they were blocking her, smiles widening sinisterly as they stepped closer. It felt like a cruel trick, the kind of nightmare she hoped never to live. "Where's your friend?" Another taunted, a sliver of amusement cutting through their dread. "Go to hell!" Mia shouted, her anger igniting as she raised the bottle, the jagged glass reflecting the flickering light. "Fiery spirit. I like that," the voice said, clapping slowly as if she were a performer on a stage. "But you'll need more than that if you want to survive." Suddenly, the tension snapped. The tallest figure lunged forward, and with a surge of adrenaline, Mia dashed for the side of the alley. "Get her!" they shouted, their voices booming against the cold walls as they pursued her. Legs pumping, she darted past discarded crates, skipping over puddles, her heart pounding with the rhythm of her footsteps. She could hear them close behind, laughter twisting into sinister taunts. Something about them felt too calm for her comfort, it was as if they were toying with her. Another alley stretched before her, shadows dancing like demons in the corners. She heard a hiss, and panic clawed at her throat. This way or that way? The alley opened up ahead, but dread pooled in her stomach at the thought of being cornered again. She had to decide what if she chose wrong. Without a thought, she took the larger path and bolted into the street, the lights of the city blinding her after the darkened alley. The noise surged, car horns blaring, voices mingling in the wild cacophony of nightlife. She had made it to safety, but fear held her in place. Then, in the chaotic throng, she spotted a shadow she recognized, the billionaire. His face was pale, and panic laced his expression as he scanned the crowd. "Mia!" he yelled, urgency flooding his voice. He reached for her, but the shadows loomed at her back, threatening to engulf her again. "Help me!" she screamed, more terrified than ever as they emerged from the alley behind her, relentless and furious. "Mia, run!" he shouted as the figures closed in, their laughter echoing ominously. Just as her instinct to flee kicked in again, she jerked towards him, caught in the horror of the moment. He couldn't fight them alone. The path to freedom now seemed blurred, despair intertwining with flickers of hope. Could she trust him like she wanted to? What would she choose, knowing what lay behind her? As the tension mounted, Mia felt the world spinning out of control, both terrified and desperate, and in that split second, she realized she was on the brink of making the most dangerous decision of her life. "Mia!" The billionaire's voice cut through the clamor of the street, urgency and fear woven tightly in each syllable. He reached out, desperation spilling from his eyes. But the shadows were closing in. Their laughter twisted into a menacing symphony, reverberating in her ears. Time slowed, each heartbeat echoing like a violent drum in her chest. "Mia, run!" The command shot through her fog of panic. She glanced back, adrenaline surging as she weighed her options. She could sprint toward him, throw herself into his arms and trust he could protect her, or she could flee, the instinct to survive clawing at her. "Come on!" he yelled, anxiety mixing with the dark energy around them. His figure blurred in her addled mind, but she could see his body tense, ready to spring into action. The figures from the alley seemed to dance through the chaos of the street, their predatory glee palpable. Their eyes, glinting with a hunger that sent shivers rippling through her, drove the choice home. With a stuttering breath, Mia dashed toward him. She could almost feel the shadows retreating at her sudden bravery, even if just for a moment. As she barreled into his arms, a spark of strength ignited within her. "They're right on my tail," she gasped, trying to catch a breath. "You made the right choice." His voice was steady now, even as she felt fear emanating from him. "But we need to move, now." He grabbed her hand and yanked her away from the chaos. Together, they started to navigate through the onlookers, whose shock morphed into confusion as they noticed a frantic woman bolting through their midst. "Mia, what happened?" The billionaire glanced back over his shoulder, taking quick glances at the moving shadows. They were chasing, relentless and playful, almost inviting them to fight back. What was in that alley? Mia hesitated, torn between the urgency of the moment and the desire to explain. I don't know. They wanted something, or someone. Someone. Panic flushed his features as he pulled her into an alley of their own, his grip tightening on her hand. "We have to get to a place where they can't follow." Silence enveloped them for a heartbeat before sirens wailed nearby. The distant echoes seemed to promise safety, but in this moment, she felt far from secure. "Who are they?" Mia pressed, urgency flooding her voice, merging with the fear coursing through her veins. "They're no one you want to cross," he admitted, brows knit with worry. "Dangerous people. I thought I could handle this, but Mia didn't need to hear the unsaid words. They were in deep trouble, deeper than she had ever realized. Suddenly, a laugh dark and chilling cut through the growing panic. The trio of shadows glided into view again, blocking the alley exit with twisted grins. "You thought you could escape?" The tallest one mocked, the oil-smooth voice sending chills along her arms. "Mia, stay behind me." The billionaire stepped forward, readying himself for a confrontation. Heart racing, Mia gripped the glass shards tighter. The feeling that she could be a target at any moment filled her with dread. She wasn't the chased anymore, the adrenaline shifted, boiling her blood. "Mia," he said, his eyes locking onto hers, silently pulsing with resolve, "we stand together. No matter what happens, we fight." But something inside her recoiled. Would she fight alongside him against these monsters? Just as the air thickened with tension, the shadows surged forward. The billionaire moved, but Mia hesitated, caught between terror and an instinct she couldn't explain. Would strength come from fighting or from running? And in that moment, the echo of laughter clawed at her sanity. Was this the end or just the beginning? "Take my hand," he yelled. But she froze, uncertainty etching its way into her bones. She had to choose, and the choice would decide everything. Would she stand and fight? Or would she abandon the man who had risked his life for hers? It felt as if the world tipped on its axis, and she was teetering, desperately trying to find solid ground. As the figures lunged forward, the decision loomed over her like a storm. Mia's heart thundered in her chest as the figures, dark and ominous, lunged towards them. The chaos of the street melted away in an instant, leaving only the suffocating sound of her breathing and the relentless thrum of panic. In the split second that stretched into an eternity, she felt the weight of the decision crushing her spirit. Fight or flee. That a low growl escaped from the shadows, prompting the billionaire to step between her and the looming threat. "Mia!" he shouted, urgency clawing at his voice, "trust me." His eyes glinted with fierce determination, emboldening her even as fear threatened to tear her apart, but trust had limits, didn't it? Especially when it came to monsters with wild grins. She remained frozen, caught in a tempest of her thoughts, her survival instinct battling against something deeper, something that screamed for connection and courage. "Mia!" He reached back, his palm outstretched, imploring her to take that leap. The shadows were upon them now, their movements fluid, unnaturally graceful as they encircled their prey. "Now!" he commanded, pulling back slightly. The billionaire's grip reflected their dire reality. The calm of his voice was a stark contrast to the storm closing in. Mia sprang forward, her fingers crashing into his as she finally chose solidarity over isolation. The moment their hands met, an electric warmth surged through her, a flicker of hope in the curling darkness. The shadows hissed, their laughter dying momentarily, replaced with surprised grunts. With a swift motion, the billionaire whirled them both away, man and woman against the horde. Their footfalls echoed down the alleyway, a wild symphony of desperation and resolve. They dashed past dumpsters, trash bags threatening to spill into their escape route. He navigated deftly, dragging her behind him like a lifeline. "Keep moving," he urged, the urgency in his breath shared as he glanced behind. The shadows were relentless, darting closer, but she felt something awakening within her. The fight refused to be smothered. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, and with it came an unexpected surge of strength. "What do they want from us?" Mia panted as they rounded a corner, legs screaming in protest. "I don't know," he grunted, "but they're tied to my past, old enemies who won't let go." His eyes flickered, pools of vulnerability stark against the darkening alley light. She didn't know what that meant, but hate radiated off the figures pursuing them, thick and intoxicating. "We can't let them catch us. We have to fight back," she muttered, grounding herself in her burgeoning resolve. "Are you sure?" he replied, a hint of incredulity tightening his voice. "Absolutely." A steely calm settled on her shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't just a damsel in distress. The fire ignited in her belly as they skidded to a stop in a narrow opening between two buildings, their partners in crime swirling at the far end. "It's now or never, Mia." The billion-dollar prince took a breath, flicking his eyes to the shadows. She nodded, feeling the weight of the glass shards still grasped tightly in her hand. They pivoted to face the shadows, glimmers of light from the nearby street illuminating the darkness swirling around them. Then, unexpectedly, as if the shadows sensed their collective resolve, the air thickened with a different energy. The figures halted their advance, eyes darting between the two, confusion creasing their grins. "What are you going to do?" The tallest taunted, his voice laced with menace, "Cry for help." A sense of stillness swept over Mia, and for the first time, she emerged from the back of the billionaire's shadow. "No," she breathed, adrenaline resonating in every note of her voice, "we fight together." But that s when the earth shifted beneath them. The ground trembled slightly, a sound echoing loud enough to drown out their fear. A roar. An engine. And then it happened, a shadowy figure materialized from the side, something deeper and darker than those chasing them. The air became electrified, filled with anticipation and dread. "Mia, we need to run," the billionaire hissed, terror seeping back into his voice. But she stood frozen, a mix of fear and curiosity igniting her nerves. What was coming next could either be a nightmare or their salvation, and with every second ticking away, she knew they would have to decide: fall back into darkness, or step into the unknown light. What choice would they make? Would they survive this encounter, or was it only the beginning of something far more sinister? The world around Mia collapsed into a blur as she stood rooted to the spot, staring down the murky specter emerging from the shadow. Its form twisted and coiled like smoke, flickering beyond perception, and every nerve screamed at her to retreat. "Mia!" The billionaire's voice cut through her paralysis, a lifeline thrown into the depths of uncertainty. "We can't wait. Follow me." Yet when she turned to him, the fire burning in his eyes betrayed a truth she couldn't ignore: he was just as afraid. The shadows they fled were more than men, they were an embodiment of his past, an unshakable darkness he carried with him. Another growl echoed. The sound was primal, almost animalistic. With a swift movement, the approaching figure stretched its arms. It wasn't human, not entirely, but rather something that existed between worlds, a nightmare made flesh. The urge to flee battled against something deeper, as she remembered the warmth of their connected hands, an unspoken promise that they would face this together. But trust, she realized, was a fragile thread. "Help me!" Mia screamed, not entirely sure if the call was directed at the billionaire or the approaching threat. She forced her feet to move, stumbling backward instinctively as the shadows crept forward. "Don't fight it!" the figure shouted, its voice vibrating through her bones, both chilling and compelling. "We can offer you power. You'd be unstoppable." Mia felt the pull, a siren-esque call drawing her towards an exhilarating promise of strength. Yet beneath that allure, she sensed the darkness thickening in the air, wrapping around her like a suffocating mist. Across from her, she could see the billion-dollar prince's resolve tightening into a grimace. "No!" he bellowed, eyes fierce with determination. "We won't let them manipulate you." The shadows halted for a moment, confusion swirling among their ranks. Mia's heart raced. Was the power they offered real, or simply a lure to trap her deeper in their world? "But they're offering you a way out, Mia." "Power comes with a price," he replied, stepping closer to her, his voice low and urgent. "They don't care about us. They want control." In that instant, the shadows lunged toward them, desperation driving their advance as if sensing a fracture in her resolve. Time slowed as the air crackled, a moment suspended between clarity and chaos. Mia could feel the heat radiating from the billions of secrets tangled in the princess' past, revealing a vulnerability that mirrored her own fears. "I have to know," she shouted against the growing cacophony. "What's the truth?" Before he could answer, the ground quaked violently, and from the distance came the deafening roar again, louder this time, unleashing chaos that made the shadows shriek. "Run!" he commanded, the urgency crystal clear, but Mia took a step toward the edge of the unknown. The swirling shadows hesitated, their feline grace halted by her defiance. "If we stand together, we can break this hold." He faltered, doubt flickering in his eyes, and then she saw it, a recognition, a dawning understanding that rippled between them. She had flicked a switch and then, something snapped in the air. The shadows surged forward, weighty and serpentine. The prince lunged for Mia, grabbing her hand just as the sharp laughter of the figures echoed around them. "Mia!" he implored, desperation filling his voice. "Don't let it take you." They stood united, breathless before the encroaching tide, determination binding them. But as they prepared for a confrontation, the shadows hissed, whispering promises of what could be if only she would leap into their world. "Join us!" they chanted, their sinister chorus rising to a deafening crescendo. "You belong with us." And just as hope began to shimmer, a blistering flash ignited the dark alley, a blinding light that punctured the shadows like dawn piercing the night. "What is that?" Mia gasped, squinting as the harbinger of salvation approached, a silhouette cloaked in radiance. Then the figures shrieked in a cacophony of rage, recoiling from the luminescence as if it were fire. She felt the billionaire's grip tighten. "Mia, now!" he shouted, his urgency an unyielding force, but in that moment, Mia understood the depth of her choice. She could dive into that unknown light or be swallowed whole by the hungry darkness, and as the blinding figure extended a hand, she knew whatever lay ahead would change everything. What awaited them in that light? Would it be their salvation or the final betrayal? As the shadows lunged, she felt herself pulled either way, teetering on the knife edge of destiny. The brilliant light flooded the alley, washing over every surface, illuminating the chaos for just a moment. Mia squinted against its brilliance, her heart pounding in her chest. The shadows recoiled, hissing in frustration, their fear palpable in the air thick with tension. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice trembling slightly but laced with newfound defiance. The silhouette in the light moved closer, revealing sharper features, a face etched with determination yet with kindness that somehow felt familiar. "Who are you?" The billionaire's voice was low, laced with suspicion. "I am your protector," the radiant figure declared, voice rich and vibrant. "But she must choose, and only then can we fight together." Mia wanted to ask more, to question everything she had ever known, but the shadows surged, twisting wildly, their anger a whirlwind around her. They clawed at the edges of her mind, whispering promises that curled like smoke. "Power," they cooed, their voices murky and seductive. "You can have everything, everything you ever desired." "No!" she screamed, shaking her head, pushing against their pull. "I won't fall for your lies. Think of the freedom, think of the strength." The shadows implored, their voices blending into a sinister choir. "You would no longer be a pawn in anyone's game. You would be the queen. Mia. Focus on me." The billionaire stepped into the light, his expression fierce but tender. "They are deceiving you. You know your worth. You can be your own strength without them." His words pierced through the fog, igniting something fierce inside her. Yes, she wanted to wield power, but not like this, not through manipulation, not through fear. "I don't need you," she retorted, feeling both lost and empowered. "I don't need any of you." The radiant figure nodded, a spark of approval in its bright eyes. "Then embrace the light, Mia. It's your choice. Do you stand with him, with light overcoming darkness?" Time stilled. The shadows shrieked in rage, crashing against the flood of brilliance. Mia felt the weight of the decision hanging in the air, an electric charge buzzing under her skin. She hesitated, heart racing. "I choose freedom." With that declaration, a blinding wave burst from the figure, swallowing the shadows, pulling them apart like vapor dispersing in the wind. The darkness roared, howling in fury as it splintered before her, tearing through the ties that bound her. Suddenly, she felt a rush of strength flow through her, igniting her core. She turned back to the prince, his eyes wide with awe. "Feel it," he urged, breathless. "You're breaking free." But just as she began to revel in her power, a horrible sound echoed from behind them, a split-second deep growl, reverberating through the alley. It wasn't one she recognized. It was a sound of something ancient and furious. "Stay back," the protector warned, thrusting an arm toward the approaching threat, but Mia sensed another wave of shadows building, heavier and darker than before. This was not the end, it felt like the start of something monstrous. "What's coming?" she cried, the realization crashing over her. The silhouette straightened, illuminating a deeper shadow that loomed from the alley's depth, something far larger than the figures they had faced. The ground trembled beneath her, and panic washed over her like ice. "Get ready!" the figure shouted, raising its arm as fierce winds swept between them, swirling debris and dust all around. Mia's heart plummeted. "What have I summoned?" There was no time to answer. A maw of darkness gaped wider, and with a rush, something far more grotesque than she'd ever faced surged forward, aiming straight for them. "Mia!" The billionaire's voice cut through the chaos as they braced against the onslaught. "Whatever you do, don't lose focus. Trust yourself." But doubt twisted in her heart, and for the first time since the chaos began, fear crept back in. As darkness and light collided, Mia realized they weren't just battling the shadows, they were fighting for their very survival. Would they stand firm against this greater evil, or would everything they fought for vanish in an instant? Just how far would she have to go to protect herself and the billionaire from the nightmare unraveling at their feet? The ground shook, rattling Mia's bones, as the massive shadow surged forward, a swirling vortex of darkness that seemed to swallow the light whole. Fear clawed at her throat, but in the chaos, she found a flicker of resolve. The protector's shimmering figure stood with unwavering strength, a beacon against the storm. "Mia!" the billionaire shouted, urgency thick in his voice. "We have to work together." Tentatively, Mia nodded, her heart thrumming wildly, adrenaline fueling her decision. "What do I do?" she asked, voice trembling but defiant. "Focus on the light. It's your strength," the protector urged, as the monstrous shadow twisted and snarled, trying to break free. Its ferocity sent shivers crawling up her spine, but she had faced terror before her survival instincts ignited, merging with a newfound power she had only just discovered. She squeezed the glass shards tightly, feeling their promise of protection. Mia had confronted downfalls before, but this time felt different. There was empowerment coursing through her veins. She pushed against the panic, turning back to the billionaire. "Together?" she asked, her voice stronger now, resonating deep within her. "Together," he affirmed, tension lacing his handsome features as he steadied himself. They stepped closer, the chaos swirling around them like wind through a storm. "Now!" Mia exclaimed, raising the jagged remnants of the wine bottle and summoning all her strength. "We stand against it." With a mighty roar of determination, they surged forward as the darkness lunged. Light pulsated around them like the heartbeat of courage. She could feel the threads of power weaving into her, igniting latent bravery she never knew existed. The protector moved seamlessly beside them, creating a triangular frontline against the monstrous figure. With each step, Mia felt the energy swell, their united front solidifying her resolve. "Illuminate the darkness," she shouted, her voice cutting through the encroaching shadows. A chilling laugh echoed as the darkness loomed just inches away. "You can't face me," it sneered, eyes glowing with malice. But in that instant, Mia saw through the facade, a mix of fear and anger surging inside her. She understood that it thrived on fear, on doubt. The more they stood united, the weaker it became. "Feel the light, Mia," the protector echoed, his own energy illuminating the space around them. Mia focused with every ounce of strength, her heart racing as she grasped tightly and directed her energy toward the dark mass before them. "We choose to stand," she bellowed. "Together." In one explosive moment, they unleashed their combined willpower into a radiant beam of light, cutting through the shadows. It struck the monster like a lighthouse breaking the stormy chaos, and the darkness recoiled, shrieking as if in pain. "No! You will pay for this!" it bellowed, retreating but not fully vanquished. As the epicenter of light burst outward, the shadows fragmented, dissolving into nothingness, scattering in every direction. The overwhelming blackness shuddered under the glow of Mia's determination, which pushed through doubt and hatred as they fought back together. With the final surge of energy, the darkness dissipated, leaving only a hollow echo behind. Silence fell heavy, thick with the reality of the world having shifted. Mia's chest heaved, her pulse racing. "Did we?" she whispered, hope mingling with disbelief. The protector turned, casting a gentle smile that radiated warmth. "Yes," he said, voice echoing softly between them. "You faced your fears. You chose light over darkness." The billionaire met her gaze, awe gripping his features. "You were incredible, Mia. I should have never doubted you," he said, relief washing across his face, but just as their hearts soared with the victory, a tremor pulsed beneath their feet, a reminder that the darkness had not been completely vanquished. The alley feeling suddenly vast and cavernous, the trio lingered, exchanging weary looks. "What happens now?" Mia breathed, catching her breath, but there was a raw edge of concern in her tone. The protector stepped forward. "We can't let our guard down. This was only the beginning. Shadows rarely retreat for long." Mia met the billionaire's gaze, understanding dawning on her. "We have to be ready for whatever comes next." The shadows might have vanished for now, but the battle was far from over. Together, they would catapult into this new reality, one working to reclaim their lives free from the ghosts of the past. As they stepped into the light that streamed through the end of the alley, Mia felt hope blossom within her like the first rays of dawn after a storm. She glanced back one last time, resolute. They were not just a billionaire and a woman caught in chaos, they were defenders against shadows, ready to fight whatever the darkness would bring. This was their moment. They hadn't just escaped the nightmare, they were preparing for anything. And in that moment, Mia decided she would never let fear dictate her path again. Now, let us rewrite the future together. If you've enjoyed this thrilling adventure, it's time to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the good stories flowing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What do you think happens next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this heart-stopping conclusion. Your engagement makes all the difference. Let us ride this wave together.